Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, breaking news. Mayor Ed Gainey is letting Pittsburgh's police chief return to his part-time basketball job, but he tells us there are consequences. The city is looking at 2 very lean financial years, but Gainey says we shouldn't be so worried. He's even ready to make his case about why he went for the NFL draft in spite of our budget problems. Plus, Pittsburgh may be chasing a new professional sports team altogether. It's Wednesday, October 23rd. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Have you voted yet?
No.
No? Are you going?
I never vote until Election Day.
Do you just like the experience of the in-person?
Yeah, and I like going to my poll and seeing the people.
Yeah? Do you have any predictions?
Vice President Harris.
What's it like having the vice president speak your name literally every time she is in town?
It's good. I mean, but at the end of the day, my hope is that she wins.
Well, I feel like we've jumped in already, but Mr. Mayor, welcome back to CityCast Pittsburgh, and thank you for coming to our offices here downtown.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So it's budget season here in Pittsburgh. The city, the county, the school district have all released budgets in the last few weeks. Yours includes a bunch of cuts, but no tax increase. But the federal money, the COVID money, is almost gone. And I know you've made a lot of new hires. What's your outlook for 2025?
One, I'm excited. We knew that the ARPA money was going to be leaving. We knew that for quite some time. And we talked about it from day one. We came in talking about the fact that it was going to leave and that we had to be prepared. So when we came in, we talked about what that budget would look like ongoing. So when we got to this moment in time, it wouldn't be a surprise. And we also knew that there were some variables that we didn't know. Like we knew that reassessment at that time was being talked about like today. Mm-hmm. We also knew about the fact that the jock tax, and that was out there. And we didn't understand, what we were going to have to do. So a lot of those things that are happening right now, we have been talking about for a number of years. The one thing that I'm excited about and I'm happy, and the reason why I say that we're looking forward to the forecast and the outcome is that we were always transparent with the people. We knew the ARPA funds was leaving, and we always said that if we got into a budget crunch, that we would be forthtelling to the public that we're having some challenges, and we have been forthtelling, but we're ending on a positive note. We have a surplus. The rating agencies have upgraded our financial position from AA- to AA. Those are good things, particularly with all the conversations that was going on about we would end in a deficit, this, that, and would be going on with our budget. It just shows that we've used sound practice when it comes to fiscal management. Now, in saying that, we still got 2 lean years coming that we have to be able to budget. We have to be able to make sure that we're budgeting correctly. And so there's some variables, again, that we don't know. But whatever variables come that we have to deal with, the reality is we'll have to deal with them, and we'll be transparent with the public.
Yeah. And let's talk about one of those realities. Why does next year's budget include the jock tax? Because multiple courts have now said we can't do it. It's possible we may have to.
It's on appeal, right?
It's on appeal. It's on appeal. But we were counting on it for this year. We didn't get it. We're counting on it for next year. We didn't get it. That is a lot of money. It's multiple $1 million.
It is a lot of money, but it would be premature for me to sit here and say that we know what's going to happen.
The jock tax, of course, being a fee that athletes and other entertainers have to pay if they play here and don't live here.
Exactly. So we're hoping that it comes in our favor, but it would be premature for me to discuss it. If it happens, we have to deal with the realities of that, and we'll be forthcoming with that.
Can we absorb a hit like that if we do end up having to pay some of that money back?
We'll be able to work through some things. If you're asking me, is it going to have an impact on the budget? Absolutely. Whenever you have to do something like that, it's going to have an impact on the budget. But again, we've looked at some different ways of looking at things, and we'll just have to see. But I'm not going to be premature and say, hey, this is what's going to happen right now, and this is what's not going to happen. What I'm going to say right now is that, again, we've demonstrated for 3 straight years that we was able to put a budget together without raising taxes.
Were you ever
or cutting services?
Were you ever tempted to propose a property tax increase?
No, not right now, because when we kept looking at the different analysis that we put together, there was no need to. Had things went different ways, then we would have had to consider
like what?
Anything, like the reassessments, the jock tax.
Do you still support a reassessment, a countywide reassessment?
Do I what?
Do you support a countywide reassessment?
I'm not going to go in it. I think the county has to make that determination. I'm not going to sit here and say what I think on that. I wouldn't, as an elected official, want nobody to make a comment on what they think. I think that's the county situation, and the county will have to make a determination on that. And whatever the county makes, we have to deal with.
But it will, of course, affect the city quite a lot.
It'll definitely have an impact on the city. Let me repeat that. It will definitely have an impact on the city. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about what another elected official has to decide.
Yeah. I mean, we put it out there that we were going to talk to you, to our listeners and our readers. We got questions about weeds and trash in the medians and dirty streets and sidewalks. I'm looking at your new budget and seeing a slight increase in street paving for the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, which of course oversees things like bike lanes and traffic calming. Why was it so important to you to preserve those city services?
Because coming in, we had to stabilize the city. Coming in, the city was on fire. Homicides was up to like 71%. 71 homicides in 1 year. Last year, homicides was reduced by 27%. Youth homicides is down. This year, we're close to 30% in the reduction of homicides and non-fatal shootings. We're down. We also wanted to make sure one of the things that we pride ourselves on also is that the potholes in the paved streets have been pretty good. You don't hear too many complaints now about potholes in our city. Our bridge asset management program, whether it's the Panther Hollow Bridge or the rest of the bridges, we have no bridges at this moment in time in failing condition. We do have some bridges in poor condition.
We do have a bridge that just closed that we didn't expect.
Well, yeah, when we inspected it last year, it was in fear. This year,
Panther Hollow over by Phipps.
Yeah. And I made a pledge to the city that I'm never going to wake up again to a bridge falling. If you want to know, not just professionally, but personally, that was probably the scariest time of my life. I've been in the city for 54 years, and I've never heard of a bridge collapse or falling. Mm-hmm. And so to wake up third or fourth week on the job and you got a bridge that collapsed, that is not something that I want to do again. And our bridge asset management program has done a good job of looking over these bridges. And also, now that we stabilized a lot of the city through making sure that we took care of the potholes and the paved streets, we wanted to add value to that by continuing to do that. One of the things, me growing up in the city, I've always heard is potholes.
Always.
But you don't hear about them as much anymore. And that's because the amount of investment we've put into the budget over the years to address that type of situation. What you're seeing now with the litter, we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to clean. When we came in, downtown was filthy. It's not as filthy as it was when we came in, and we still got a long way to go.
Those lantern flies are really continuing to be a challenge.
Lantern fly, oh yeah. But you know what amazes me? I see them more downtown than I do in neighborhoods.
Every time, yeah, every year for 3 years straight.
Yeah, there's some, but they're not as much as they was last year, though. My goodness. But that's something that you see majority in Central City than you do in the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. Even if municipal services remain, I know that's been a priority. Are you worried at all about what maybe gets left on the table? Like what's not being built, what's businesses that are not being courted to come here? Like, I guess this kind of lack of growth, as we try to make sure that everything is stabilized, sometimes that doesn't leave as much room to go chase the cool, shiny things.
Yeah, I'm not. I think I understand the question, but I think when you look at it, let's look at the land bank. We couldn't move no properties out of the land bank for 8 years. Now we are close to 100 deals being completed. The ones on inside that 100 deals that have not been completed are at least underway or under proposal to be done. I think that when you talk about the 12 low-income tax credit deals we got from the state, that's historic. We have never gotten in 2 years, six last year, 6 this year, and low-income tax credit deals that's going to help build more affordable housing. I think that when you look at it from that perspective, in 3 years being close to 1,000 units of affordable housing that we put together, I think all that is growth. I think in many ways that is growth. If we're talking about the commercial real estate, I think John Valentine reported that 12 or so more businesses have moved in downtown. So that is growth. There are areas that is growing, but will we have some challenges? Yes, and we will have some challenges. You have some skyscrapers out there that we have to be concerned about.
Yeah, the vacancy rates are just still kind of high because so many people still work from home.
They're going to work from home. I told people a long time ago that, about 10, 15 years ago, there was this move from the big four banks, right? That they wanted to eliminate retail banking, go to virtual banking. And the blowback was so big that they did not do it. But the pandemic did. The pandemic made it more convenient for people to work from home. And I think that the business model that has changed was that a lot of businesses went to a hybrid model, right? And so now when you hear from employees is that, hey, listen, I don't have to worry about my boss looking over my back. I don't have to pay for childcare. I don't have to pay for lunch. I don't have to pay for transportation. This is convenient to me, and I'm still being as productive as I was if I was at work. I would love to see everybody come back to work downtown. I would. I mean, even in my own administration, but we do have a department or two that is still out just because 412, when we came in, we had to do a lot to get it moving. And we're hoping that 412 will be open within the next month and a half. So when that happens, then we'll be, from a city perspective, we'll be back to work. All of us. But if I don't have an office space to give you, I can't. Ask you to come back. But I think that's the main thing, if you want to know. The business model has changed. Well, and I'm not sure.
Your office has changed quite a lot since the pandemic and since you took over. You've hired a ton of folks in your department and city planning and public works. But I noticed that those departments also have had a little bit of a budget tightening too.
Yeah, I mean, we had to come in. I mean, there were certain things that we had to do. We had to restore core city services. We were down in personnel. 21% of the Department of Public Works was out when I was in. We hadn't hired a cop in 2 years when we took over. We had to put together.
Well, that was because of the pandemic, but.
Well, it was because of the pandemic.
Hiring a cop in 2 years. They couldn't run the academies, right?
Well, yeah, but there was they couldn't do it yes. But also the effort was that they didn't hire no cops even before the pandemic. So at the end of the day, it does go back to, yes, you're correct there, but it also comes back to it was an administrative decision.
Administrative decision may be exacerbated by the pandemic. We'll meet in the middle.
Well, I think it came after. Well, one came before the pandemic came after. So one led into the other. Yeah. I agree with that. But the bottom line is in 2 years, we hadn't hired any. And so we had to make sure that we were adding to our police force. The third thing is that we had the Department of Health and Community OCHS. We had to make sure that we were doing a great job. If we wanted to make sure that we had social workers going out with people, with police officers to deal with overdoses, to deal with the drug situation, the mental health situation that had exploded after the pandemic. We knew that. We had to make sure that we were budgeted for that we could add personnel to that so that we would be able to deal with it. If we wanted to deal with the youth situation, with the violence that was happening with the youth homicides, that we also had to have an office for youth. We've done that. We've completed that. We've been doing good. Homicides with youth is down. So all that has mattered. So at the end of the day, yes, we've invested more personnel in regards to the areas that we needed, the areas of concentration. But I look at the results of that. Again, homicides are down. Youth homicides are down. We're doing better with OCHS to make sure that we're dealing with the mental health that's out here. There's a lot out here that came out of the pandemic. But where we invested our resources, we also had a rate of return that was great.
I guess I'm just looking historically. The last time our payroll ballooned like this, it was also right before we went into Act 47 in 2003. It's scary as we talk about having 2 lean fiscal years and all this stuff. Do you get nervous thinking about that?
No, Act 47 was a different ball game.
And that's what we went into. It was state receivership to keep us out of bankruptcy.
Yeah, but that wasn't due to hiring. That was from years of neglect of budget responsibility. That didn't happen over 1 year. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in 1 year. The Act 47 didn't come because of 1 year. The Act 47 came because there was years of neglect of how to deal with the fiscal responsibility of the city. So I don't want to make it look like it was just 1 year, one administration.
No, I mean, nothing ever is, right? Like mayor gets to exist without the context of the mayor that came before them.
Correct.
But I mean, does it make you nervous? Like being in charge at this moment, this critical juncture where things they have to be tighter?
I'm nervous every day. I mean, let me be honest. We've had a lot of mayors, but we haven't had a lot of mayors that had to leave coming out of a pandemic.
I think we've only had one.
Is that right? Only one?
Well, 1918, 1920, something like that.
I like your data. But anyway, we haven't had a lot. So, of course, you're nervous every day. We're in areas that we haven't been before. But if you look at the way we've navigated it, we've done a great job. We've been able to navigate it in a way that demonstrates that we can deal with some of the variables that we talked about. When we talked about coming in, we wanted to have more affordable housing. We're building that. We came in, we talked about we wanted to address the homicides in the city. We've done that. And we continue to do that. We wanted to make the city more welcoming. We've done that. We've diversified government. We've diversified procurement. We've done a lot in order to show people that they belong here and we want them here. So yeah, we've had to add some staff members in order to make that possible, because without the right people, you can't run the right system. So we have done some things to improve the overall quality of services that we provided. But let's look at it. We haven't had to raise taxes. We haven't had to cut services. And you can see the differences that the services have made.
But you can see how somebody might look at some of the headlines and feel some type of way about it. You know, the city school district, the county, and the city, all the leadership is talking about it's going to be tight now. Like we're struggling a little bit. Nothing's dire, but it's tough times now. What would you say to a taxpayer or a city resident who's listening and hears all that and is like internalizing it? Like, what does that mean for me?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but you have to invest in growth. I mean, you can't say status.
Is this like you have to spend money to make money situation?
Well, I think spending and investing is two different things, right?
Fair.
A lot of administrations have spent money and you haven't seen a result. I think when you invest money, there's a return on your investment. And so if we're going to have a return on our investment, then there are certain priority areas that we had to invest in. So we wasn't just out there hiring people for the sake of hiring people or spending or investing our resources in a way that wouldn't be a return to the people of the city. I promised that, and we kept that promise. If I felt that we were investing in things where we weren't getting a rate of return, I'd have stopped it right then and there. But everything that we've invested in, we can demonstrate the rate of return. That's the difference. So first, let me pay respect to your question. Of course, even as the mayor, I'm nervous. Like I don't ever want to be comfortable. Like every day I get up, I want to be uncomfortable. Because it's the only way that I'm going to come to work ready to be able to learn what I have to learn to make the right decisions. That's
a lot of cortisol to sit with in your body, Mr. Mayor.
It is, but that's the reality of leadership, right? It's the reality of it. You have no choice, but you have to find some time for yourself too. You have to find some time. And that's why I always tell people when they ask me, well, what do you do to relax? I go to the parks. I love our parks. I think our parks are beautiful. Look, I love the city. I love the parks, and I love what we're doing. I mean, who would have thought coming in that we wouldn't have a real outlook on our bridges, knowing that at the end of the day, you can't get around in the city without our bridges? Who would have thought that was something that we would have had to pay attention to?
I mean, I think all of us knew we should be paying attention to the bridges, but I don't think all of us had a real handle on how much we maybe weren't.
Correct. I mean, but that's just one example of, again, coming in and, righting that ship. Mm-hmm. But you can't do that if you don't invest properly. I mean, we know what the Panther Hollow and the Anderson with those closures we understand the type of congestion that creates. But at the end of the day, we also understand the safety of them bridges not falling or collapsing. And so I'm happy with those investments because those investments are ensuring that how we get around in this region where we are the city with the most bridges are okay.
We're not the city with the most bridges.
We got more bridges than
Houston
us.
has way more bridges than we do.
I don't know about that. You got to show me the numbers on that. I'm sticking with us. Huh?
It's just like a Pittsburgher to say we have the most.
We got the most bridges.
Well, this uncomfortable feeling, it must be something that that does, fulfill you because you have already announced your bid for reelection. The primary is coming in April. Most people tend to announce around January or so. Do you expect a challenger as of right now?
Oh, I always expect something. I mean, we don't know, but I expect something because at the end of the day, we've done a lot to change the course of this city, and that's what I promised that we would do.
Until you won, no one had ever unseated an incumbent before. So
we're going to keep doing what we do. I think that I'm happy with the rate of return that we've given this city.
So the NFL draft, we made the bid. We're going to get it in 2026. It includes some city investment. So even with these two lean fiscal years, we've promised now that we're going to give at least $1 million, I think, through Visit Pittsburgh. But there was a bid. There were other things. Are you going to talk about what else we may have promised?
No, I mean, that's about it, really. That was the $1 million. There's some other things that had to be, that had to, through the county, through Visit Pittsburgh, that has to be done and through the Roonies. But I mean, that's, from our perspective, we know what we had to do. To me, that investment right there will yield great returns for the city.
But how much do you estimate like the public safety cost will be, for example?
I don't have the exact number right now. I'll be honest. If I threw out a number to you, it would just be me throwing out a number to you. We will have those numbers in the months to come. But I think it's a little too premature for us to have those numbers. And the NFL is going to be running a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean they are, but when you have big events like this, you use a lot of police services. I was looking
Department of Public Works.
I was looking back, like
fire,
we
EMS.
spent $25,000 on the Taylor Swift concerts alone, which I know brought a tremendous economic impact. You're clapping, I get it. That's a celebratory moment, but look at Detroit. So they had the NFL draft this year. They used 2,500 officers. We only have like 670-ish that are not in command or on leave right now.
Yeah, but the number that Detroit used wasn't just the Detroit police.
Of course, but we would have to pay, if state police, county police, other municipalities come in and help us, we have to cover the cost of that bill.
We're going to have to put some up. There's no question about that. But some of that's to be determined out of the entities that will be at the table talking about it, because the benefit of the draft will impact a lot outside the city as well. And there's other people that understand that they would have to help us cover some of that cost. Some of that's already been discussed.
And the counties at that table, the city.
The state's at the table. So, I mean, again,
Can I be at that table?
I wish. But listen, I'm not going to go into all that right now. A lot of that is still being discussed. So for me to talk about it right now, it would just be hypothetical. It wouldn't be factual.
Well, let's stick with police. Big news this week and last. Police Chief Larry Scirotto has gotten your blessing to referee. He says up to 65 college basketball games on his own time through next March. That would be, you get a per cost per game. I think I saw between $1,000 and $3,000 per game, plus his full-time Pittsburgh salary of $184,000. Is he going to get that full-time salary while he's also reffing these games?
So let me start with this. When Larry came in, the first thing he asked about, and I told him he couldn't do it his first year. I told him that we would revisit this based on the amount of reductions in homicides. If we could reduce homicides in a way that was making the city safe.
And I've seen you celebrating that. Yeah,
I was comfortable.
You said he's accomplished that goal.
He's accomplished that goal.
You're okay with him doing it.
I'm okay with doing that.
But what does that mean for his salary?
There will be a slight reduction.
Okay.
There'll be a slight reduction. And I think the investment in the kids is good too.
How I saw him quoted, I believe it was in WPXI, saying, are you whispering?
I'm giving you some props.
I believe it was in WPXI where he said that this is going to bring a tangible benefit to Pittsburgh kids. How so? Like, in what way? Exposure.
I mean, I think that, one of the things I've always said that I agree with the chief on is the fact that sports has an ability to expose people to a greater quality of life. It's did it for me and a lot of people that I know.
I mean, is he going to go into some of the schools, like middle school, high school, and talk about it?
We do that now.
True. Like, I know that there are existing programs, but
But he's actually talking about taking the kids.
Taking Pittsburgh kids to some of these Big Ten games?
Absolutely.
Is that who pays for that? Absolutely. Is that coming out of the police budget?
No, we're working on that now. We'll be back with that information. But that's being. I'm not going to speak about it now. But it's being worked on as we speak. But the reality is, the situation is that this will give these kids an opportunity to see things that they haven't seen in their whole life. And in that, I understand the power of exposure and the fact that the more that we expose our kids to a greater quality of life, the better life they live. A lot of times we get caught up in never leaving the area that we come from. So you name a block, and most of our neighborhoods are no bigger than 4.2 square miles. So if you're living your whole life in a 4.2 square miles and you're in an underserved community, you're never seeing nothing except what you're exposed to every single day. The ability to be able to use sports to take these kids somewhere and show them a variety of not only just sports medicine, sports media, to teach them the whole gamut and let them see for themselves what that looks like. That's empowering all by itself.
Yeah, you don't have to be Jordan if you want to work in this field. You can do other things.
No. I mean, and I think, this can provide the opportunity to do that. I think this is very innovative in so many ways. When he first brought it to me, I was like, but you can't do it right now, Larry. Chief, because
you needed to see something before you were willing to take that step.
Let's be honest. I understand the power of homicides. I'm not foreign to that. I'm not foreign to people that have lost loved ones. And when that happens, there's no comeback from death. So I understand that. 71 homicides my first year, that was just too many.
Are you confident that that progress can continue?
Yes.
That even with, Scirotto out of town, somebody else stepping up?
I'm confident. And if there's a situation where there's a spike for any reason, because we understand that it's an ebb and flow, then we will make the necessary changes to address that. But right now, I'm confident.
Before we go, let's talk about housing. You have proposed this ambitious collection of zoning reforms, removing minimum parking requirements, allowing for taller, more dense housing near some of the transit hubs, updating residential lot sizes, and allowing these accessory dwelling units, like the granny flats where like a loved one or a friend or somebody could live. But what I've seen criticized about that is an inclusionary zoning policy that would require units over 20 units or more include affordable housing for our city's low-income residents. Not that that's a bad policy, but that it requires
city's low-income residents.
It requires some city subsidies sometimes to make developers do it. Not that it's not a good idea, but that developers won't sign on, or they'll build buildings that are like 19 units just to get around it. How attached are you to the inclusionary zoning piece of all that?
We have to stabilize our city. We have to. The reduction of population in the city has continued to decrease. We are a second-class city, and if we get below a certain threshold, we become a third-class city. If we we will not become a third-class city. I will work hard to ensure that.
What is that number?
I can't, 270, 280, somewhere around.
Yeah, so we're 303-ish right now.
300,000 period. So we have continued to decrease. We have to stabilize the city. And affordability is one way in how we stabilize. So I'm big on inclusionary zoning. I'm big on it. I'm not asking for a lot. We're not asking for a lot. Not at all. The reality of the situation is that we understand that we built a lot of market rate, but we lost a lot of population. So, I don't call that success. And I'm not against market rate, but what I am saying is that there should be a percentage in development that has affordability attached to it. And not all of it has to be low income. That's why I smile when you said that, because if you talk to a lot of these young professionals that's out here right now, if they got a choice between living in McKnight Road and downtown, they're going to take McKnight Road because the rent is cheaper. Mm-hmm. So I think that making it affordable and adding that as a component to stabilizing the area and being attractive is something that we should all celebrate.
And I see people applauding that, but they're just worried that it won't go through because of this extra piece.
We'll see. It would be, again, I don't want to speak on that because we're still negotiating. There'll be some things that we give and there'll be some things that we receive. Do
you have a timeline for it?
We'll see.
You thought really hard about that answer. You do have a timeline for it.
I'm not. We'll see.
Soonish, this year, next year?
We'll see.
Okay. Do you think that Pittsburgh can grow, that we can attract new people, we can get new businesses, we can get new development, we can get a few of the shiny things while also remaining responsible with all of these challenges at our door right now? Let
me make sure I understand let's define responsible.
Can we increase our population? We'll start there.
Absolutely. I think that there's multiple ways. I see it happening now, right? So, making the city more affordable. And I also think that the tech community is taking off.
The tech community salaries are abnormal.
Yeah, but let me be honest. We're a tech city now. There's no question about it. If you invest billions into the economy of becoming a tech city, what are you, a tech city?
We are a tech city, but what does that mean for the rest of us that don't work in tech and don't have those tech salaries?
Well, I think that a couple things, but let's start with the youth first. As I go around and I talk in these schools, I tell them all that, as you continue to develop in your profession and in your classroom, there's a certain level of technology you have to understand. It's not going nowhere. And for us to be in a situation where we're not preparing the next generation for what the economy is going to be, then we'll lose them. That next generation is going to be the people that we want to attract because that's the future generation of this city. And we have to prepare them to be in a tech environment, whether that's AI, which is, maturing at a fast rate. And I'm a little scared when it comes to some of this technology. I'm not the most.
I think we should all be scared of the AI of it all.
Right, exactly. But the reality is it's here. So not only AI, you got life sciences. Life sciences here. You got the robotics area. It's here. I mean,
and I have no doubt that we can get young professionals to come into some of these industries.
Absolutely.
What I'm worried about is that they then move as soon as they think about having a family.
Let's make the city affordable and they'll stay.
But does that help, like the school district and other things?
Absolutely. The more affordable you make the
can you
school district.
Disconnect those two things?
I don't think you want to disconnect the affordability and people moving into housing and raising a family. You don't want to disconnect that from the schools. You want to connect that to the schools.
Yeah.
The more people you have raising families in our in our neighborhoods, the more they're going to go to public schools. That's just a reality. It's been that way. So at the end of the day, the more that we can stabilize our neighborhoods, the more we open up opportunity for PPS for kids to go there. Now, I don't mean you can get 100% of the kids to go to PPS, but it will attract more children to go to Pittsburgh public schools than what we have right now.
Okay, last one, I promise. You told me last year that you wanted a WNBA team. The league recently expanded to Toronto, Portland, the Bay Area. I love that you were already giggling. Did the city try to jump in on that? Some of those expansions?
Now, we put out, Sports and Exhibition Authority did put out I believe it was a survey or something to determine exactly what would be more, what would investors invest in.
Yeah, because somebody has, even if the city wants it, if you want it badly and you're grinning, so I think you do, somebody else has to own it.
Correct. So it has to be enticing. It has to be appealing to the people that would invest in it. And you've heard me talk about investments a lot since I've since I've been in this chair.
Is that still on your wish list?
Absolutely.
Is it on your near-term wish list?
It's on my wish list. It's on my wish list. I think that we are...
Are we chasing it right now?
Well, I believe that we're in a situation where a WNBA team would be great here.
But are we chasing it?
I believe that right now that a WNBA team would be great here.
But are we chasing it?
I mean, I don't think you chase anything. I think you walk to it.
Yeah, you court it. Are we getting that attention?
I think we're going to walk to it.
Okay. Will you tell me when we get that attention?
Absolutely. I'll come back and share. I don't have no problem, but... sometimes I have to be...
I'm a basketball fan, Mr. Mayor. This is news I want.
Me too. But sometimes I just have to be... I don't want to be to a point where I'm speaking before things have fulfilled themselves. And so I'm very cautious not to overpromise things that I'm not sure of. What I will tell you is that I believe that a WNBA team in this city makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Special thanks to Patrick, Carol, Angelo, Jeb, Brian, Jackie, Jeff, Mike, and Kevin for your thoughtful questions. We tried to get to as many as we could today, and a planning note for all of yins just wrapped by budget season around here. The 2025 city proposal we talked about today is just a draft. Mayor Gainey will present the official version to City Council next month. Then councilors can make their changes, and they've got to pass the whole thing officially by the end of the year. So you will probably hear more about all of this in the coming weeks. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to y'all soon.
Okay. I'll be honest. I've never been to a Halloween costume party.
What would you dress up as if you went to a Halloween party?
Well, when I was younger, I would say Spider-Man. If you ask me now, I really don't know. Like, I would really have to give it some thought. Who are you going as?
My costume for the last several years has been a Pittsburgh alligator. It keeps being relevant.
That's different. That's different.